Good evening and welcome to our 23rd online session for EPA3 in the spring, the Corona spring of the year 2020. This is week 12. It is the first session for week 12 and we have some business to take care of tonight. We're going to fly through the book, but I also need to point out some important stuff, maybe some things you don't really want to hear. Last week on, when was it? It was Thursday. I kind of scolded you. I was hard on you about watching videos. Well, yeah, I had some technical difficulties in that Thursday session, and I was a little frustrated. But everything I said about watching videos, I meant it. In terms of that Zoom session, yeah, we had some headaches. Technology, it was just not a good day in my house. My son had issues too. Some of it was internet speed and some of it was other stuff. But one thing I can tell you is that one of my sound problems was the fact that I don't know this device very well. And I'm ashamed to say that I had turned the mute button, the mute switch off. So when the mute was off, the headset mic wasn't working, and the only thing that would work was my webcam mic, which is picking up all the surround sound. And especially when it's a hot, sticky day or I'm frustrated, the fan is blowing, the lights are on. Yes, lights make electronic noise. It was really bad, but it seems like tonight's audio should be much better. I have my little mini aircon blowing. It's not really an air conditioner. We call it a swamp cooler. But anyway, there's probably a little sound, but it seems like it should be much, much better tonight. All right, so let's take a look at the bad news. For you, you think it's bad news. These are my new attendance rules. Because I'm just disgusted with people coming into a class on a Thursday and not having seen the recording that Monday, Tuesday, that Monday, but also not having seen the video from the Monday before. That's just not okay. So I'm changing the rules. I know that the university still shows 2 weeks for video, but no longer for me. You not completing the recorded video before the first Thursday class is not okay. I told you that in the Zoom. So, see the notice for the new rules. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Okay, jump into the CTL, the HOXA board, and there's a notice here on top that says check your attendance. Okay, first let's take a look at week 10. It's now Sunday night, 9:40 p.m., May 31st. And we can see that the week 10 session, which was recorded, which day was it? Was recorded on the 17th, and you were supposed to watch it on the 18th. Okay? Well, ta-da! Everybody has seen it. That's good news. Well, almost everybody has seen it. One person apparently hasn't finished watching it. And if we look at the week 11 first session, which was recorded on the 24th, uploaded on the 25th, and you have basically uploaded around midnight or 1 a.m., something like that, just between Sunday and Monday. And you have class on Monday, the 25th. Today's the 31st. You can't see that in my recording because the calendar doesn't go that high. But it's 9:40 on the 31st. And 7 people haven't watched it. 7 people haven't watched last week's video. And I think that's not okay. So let's take a look at the new recordings video policy. Starting week 12, June 1, this recording, I'm only giving you 6.75 days to watch the first video. 6.75, 6 days and 3/4 of a day to watch the first video, or you'll be marked absent. What does that mean? I put the videos up Sunday night by midnight or maybe 1 a.m. Monday morning. You must watch the first video for that week, not later than 7 p.m. that week, that same week. All right? You got all of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and 2/3 or more of Sunday. All right. Now, moving forward, I have marked attendance as much as I can all the way through last Thursday's Zoom class, May 28. If you check the attendance sheet, the attendance system in your when you would log into the Edwards system, you can see all the days that you were marked absent, all the days that you were marked late to arrive, early to leave, or somehow not completed the class. But please notice that I've not marked attendance for week 11 video last Tuesday's class. Tuesday's class? This class would be on Monday. So I should fix that. I have marked attendance for the week 10 video, and some people who hadn't seen it when I marked it, well, if you watch the video before tonight, 11:55 p.m., May 31st, I will change the absent to attend. All right, that's the 2 weeks. That's the 2 weeks the school gives you. And the same is true for week 11. I will give you the 2 weeks for week 11 under the school system. That means until June 7. But starting with tonight's video, starting with this June 1 video, you get 6 days and 3/4 until 7 p.m. on that Sunday. That's it. Now, if you think that the information I have for attendance is wrong, please let me know. I do make mistakes. I could have copied something wrong in the attendance sheet on the Zoom class. You know how we say hello and say goodbye. I could have copied something down from how the university system marks watched a video or didn't. Okay. I could have made a mistake. So contact me and we can look at line by line. I can look at one student all the way across and tell you exactly what's happening. I can see what you can see. All right, I have records from the Zoom class. I have records from the CTL view logs, but I could copy things wrong. I do expect you to watch, when I wrote here Tuesday video, I'm going to change this to Monday video. I'm going to do it right now. I do expect you to watch the Monday video. Last Monday's class, MON. I have marked attendance for the week. I expect you to watch our Monday video before our Thursday Zoom. How did I get this all wrong? Interesting. Seem to be thinking EPA1 instead of EPA3. EPA3 before our Thursday Zoom. THURS. I expect you to watch the Monday video before our Thursday Zoom. Our Thursday is at 10:30 a.m. I know it's early. Giving you until Sunday is a bonus, right? But I really want you to watch it before the Thursday class so that you can make use of that knowledge in our class. That's the aim. That's the goal. That's the purpose. If we had face-to-face classes, or if we were doing Zoom classes on Tuesday, on Monday, then you would not have any bonus time, right? You'd be in the room or you'd be not here. Interesting how I messed this up. All right. See, I make mistakes. Check my work. I can make a mistake. Oh, my right-hand lamp is dead. Oh well, because I have the air conditioner running, I don't have enough of that special kind of electrical cable. Oh well, so sad. Too bad. Okay, so that's the bad news. Sorry to hurt your feelings. Let's close that. And we're just working in the book tonight. And as you know, my camera shoots narrower, and still you can see the sides of my room because my room is pretty narrow, pretty small. We are on page 30. And as I recall, we did not do this. And as I recall, I've always told you, this one is one of my star pages where I say it can be on the test. I have also another note on the page, and I mentioned it during the Zoom. I'm going to show it to you right here, if you can see it. Along with the star, it says B2B, B2C, G2B, G2C. Well, what does that mean? I think many of you have heard of at least some of these, especially if you took an e-government class. I think Bakjong Sun Gyosunim has taught that more recently, and Bakse Jung Gyosunim taught it earlier than that. All right, I'm going to reduce this a little so that I can put my notepad up here. That should do. All right. We're going to come back to this, but I'm going to put these key letters up here for you now. B2B, B2C, G2B, and G2C. And here's a hint. C does not mean the same thing in these two listings. Okay, does not mean the same thing. So, before we start reading this, if you haven't read it, any guesses what it means? Well, unfortunately, we don't have a chance to discuss it. So just think about it. Maybe make a pencil note. Okay, e-commerce is here to stay. You know, this is old news. This is a 20-year-old book. E means, actually, it might not mean what you think it means. Originally, E did not mean electronic. E equals Ethernet. Never heard of it? You're not old enough. Ethernet was the idea of the internet. Ether is a kind of a lack of oxygen, a gas. Well, we could talk about ether as the gas that some dentist will make you breathe so you fall asleep, or a surgery maybe to make you fall asleep. But Ethernet really means something that means without humans, something kind of like in space. But it was used to mean internet. And if you learn the real name of those cables that you buy to plug your computer into your Wi-Fi device or into the wall, those were called Ethernet cables. So Ethernet. So when we talk about e-commerce, originally it meant Ethernet commerce. And things have changed, and nowadays people usually talk about I something, I dot for internet commerce. Or maybe even M dash for mobile mobile phones, but it also can mean any kind of internet connectivity where you don't have to plug into the internet. You don't need a cable. Wireless anything. Okay, we have refrigerators now that talk on the internet and all these, buzzwords and ideas. So E was the early meaning for internet, or not just electronic, but internet type commerce. All right, e-commerce. The internet is changing the way business is done worldwide. Everyone from property developers in Hong Kong to banks in Argentina is doing business online. In business-to-business e-commerce, companies use the internet to conduct business with each other. This offers tremendous opportunities for all types of businesses. Okay, so we got B2B, right? B2B, business to business. Business to business, B2B. Also notice, grammar point, the second sentence. Everyone from property developers, ESA, to banks, ESA, in Argentina, is doing business online. Property developers is plural. Banks is plural. Why don't we say are? Everyone from property developers in Hong Kong to banks in Argentina are doing business online. Why not are? I don't very often talk grammar, but let's check this one. Why not are? What's the subject of the sentence? The main idea of the sentence, the main actor, is everyone. Everyone sounds like so many. But the grammar point is one. Every single one person. One. But the point is every one. So in terms of grammar, old school basic grammar, one is doing. One is doing. Everyone is doing business. Now, it is true that there are a lot of people these days, native speakers, educated native speakers, who are using are. This is old school grammar. And I admit, when I'm speaking, I'll probably say are a lot. But when I'm writing, I'll try to say is, and if I'm using like MS Word has a grammar checker, it will probably catch it and say, oh, every one is the subject of this sentence, and one is singular. Grammatically, every single person is, even though all of them. It's every single person is. All right, so that's the grammar point, and there's your B2B in paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, for smaller manufacturers and exporters, the internet is an equalizer. It allows them to compete with much bigger businesses for buyers anywhere in the world, just for the cost of setting up and maintaining a website. Really? Is that how it works? Not really so much. I mean, sure, yeah, okay, but how do people find your website? In the 21st century, in the 2020 era, maybe you are using a commercial website like eBay, Auction, Gmarket, whatever, and they are the principal website, and maybe you have your own website too, but they are the principal website. Maybe you're using social media to pull people into your website. So it's more than just build it and they will come. Build a website and everybody will come. It's more than that. But still, it gives you a chance. Paragraph 3. Today, most banks provide online services to businesses as well as to individual customers. Businesses can now complete bank transactions such as collection and payments on the web. This avoids an endless paper trail of invoices and receipts. Yep, businesses can, and so can you. Whether it is your electronic credit card, instead of having a plastic credit card and getting, somebody running a machine and you get a paper receipt and then they send a paper receipt to the bank and then the bank sends you your notice that's got all these statements, all these listings, and you pull out all of your paperwork and match it up, and now it's all electronic. Credit cards, electronic payment systems, Kakao Pay, Smile Pay, right? Payment systems online. The internet also gives manufacturers and suppliers greater access to each other. At TSMC, Taiwan's integrated circuit chip manufacturer, buyers use the internet to check manufacturing schedules, inform the company when they need supplies, and follow the order process through the manufacturing cycles. The manufacturing cycles, right? Buying products, how many steps before the product is completed, shipping, right? All these steps. At TSMC, the company can share important information with its suppliers, transmit orders, and even notify their salespeople on their pagers when an order is ready. Okay, obviously, we don't hear about pagers too much anymore. Although, in fact, pagers are still used by doctors in the U.S. because they don't want to be bothered with a phone. They're busy. They're cutting people or whatever, and they'll get a beep 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 beep, and so they know when they catch a break to check the beeper and decide, do I need to call this now? Where do I call? Very simple. Certain people like doctors still use pagers or beepers, what Korea used to call beepy. Okay, pagers, beepers, in Korean called beepies, still use them. All right. Before we go back up to those other three code words, let's take a look at the reading below. Circle one advantage of the internet that's not mentioned in the article. So now you get to use your outside knowledge. One advantage that's not mentioned in the article. A, small companies can sell their products worldwide. I think it said it in there. Allows people much bigger businesses buyers anywhere in the world. Sure, A is in there. Businesses can do banking transactions online. Oh, that was sure in there. Buyers can check manufacturing schedules online. Manufacturing schedules. I think that's in there. Large retailers can sell directly to the customer. Did it actually say that? They didn't talk about large retailers selling to customers. They talked about smaller retailers. They didn't talk about large retailers. Buyers can check the status of their orders online. Yeah, I did talk about that. So it's probably the best answer is D. Part 3, talk about it. I want you to think about it. This is something that could be on your final test. How does your company, or a company you know, but how does your company use the internet? For example, consider the following uses. Internal communication. And sometimes we call that an intranet. I'm going to write that word up here. Intranet means inside the organization. It means outsiders can't get in. Hopefully, we build our firewalls, and in fact, in some organizations, the whole system is never connected to the internet. There's no cable connecting it. It's a different computer, and you have to have a computer that's plugged into the intranet, and you cannot take that computer and plug it into the internet. Inter meaning connecting outside, connecting all around. Communication with offices in other countries. Well, sure, right? A website with company information. A website with goods to purchase. Goods, remember we talked about goods and services? Goods, physical things that you can use. Things that are kind of standardized, normal. One piece of corn is the same as another piece of corn. Or how did your organization use a computer, use the internet for research? That could be researching outside. It could be researching within the organization. How does your company use the internet? Good question for a test. I got my pen. Make a nice star next to number 3. Okay, B2B, business to business. B2C, well, the B is business. The C is, oh, I wish I could write. I wish I could write. Business to customer. In the G here, we're talking about government to business. Because government buys things from business, government contracts with business. Well, we need somebody to repair the road. Probably not a government worker. We probably let a private company do the job. So how do we choose a company? Maybe we make an announcement, let 8 or 10 different companies bid. The one who comes in with the best price that we know will do a good job, or we believe will do a good job, maybe gets the contract. G2C. Here we're not talking about customer, although more and more nowadays government is saying citizen, customer. But yeah, it's citizen. Government to citizen. All right, G2C, government to citizen. And Korea is the #1 world leader in G2C. Definitely. #1. All the surveys, global surveys about the national government, about local governments, Korea is consistently the world leader. Seoul has been the #1 city in the world every year for 20 years. There's one more thing we sometimes talk about in here, and that would be G2G. I made them small. This is internal. This could be from Daegu-gwangyok Sicheong to Dalsa-gucheong, right? It's inside of government, inside of the government network. If Daegu is talking to Gwangju, that's a little bit different. It's G2G also, but that would probably be capital letters, big G to big G. But I'm making a small g here to say that it's internal. So it's kind of like this notice about internal communications. Well, how internal? Just inside Dalsa-gucheong, or can it include Daegu-gwangyok-sicheong to Dalsa-gucheong? Can it include the National Ministry of Government Affairs, right? Government Home Affairs, MOGHA, right? That's still all kind of associated government, kind of connected. So maybe that's a G2G small. We also have what we might call back office, and that's internal communication or internal accounting. I make a pay request, and it goes to the accounting office, and they check the paperwork, and they say okay. Then they send it over to the payment team. The payment team makes the arrangement and sends the money and sends a notice to the original officer to say yes, okay, it's done, and sends a notice to accounting and says yes, it's done. That's all internal. So we can also talk about, sometimes we call it back office. All right, it's that internal communication. All right, that's the end of that chapter. Turn the page. We're looking at chapter 7 called Teamwork, and we will not spend a lot of time on chapter 7. Couple reasons. One is that Koreans are known as better team players than the people in many other countries. I think that's probably true. Better team players. And let's kill that. Close. Oh, what's going on? I wonder why that's a problem. There we go. And we'll make that a little bit bigger. So Koreans are already pretty much known to be good team players. And the key language in here is very important. I've talked about it a little bit before, but we don't really need to beat up this chapter to do it. We can do it more efficiently. So take a look on the blue column on page 38. Objectives: to make requests, offers, and suggestions. Requests, offers, and suggestions. To negotiate and delegate task. To negotiate means to kind of make a deal, and to delegate means to pass down, and then to write a memo about a policy or procedure. We're not going to do that. All right, so page 7, teamwork, business talk, getting started. Look at the picture. This dialogue is very, it's not even a dialogue. These mini dialogues are very simple. Let's just go.
Unit 7, Teamwork, page 38. Business talk, getting started. Exercise 1. Listen and check your answers. A.
Would you mind putting that in writing?
No problem.
B.
Should I schedule a meeting?
Yes, please.
C.
Let's get some lunch.
Yes, why don't we go now?
Okay, so 3 very common, everyday, ordinary phrases that you've surely heard before. Would you like to dance? Would you is a very kind way to ask about something that might happen in the future, a kind of a please. Would you like to dance? Would you mind is even softer. Be careful with would you mind. We'll talk about that in a minute. Second one, should I? Do you think it's a good idea? But now it's my job. Should I? And then number 3, let's get some lunch. Now, I have heard a few people who are very stiff who say, let us do this. It sounds too formal. Let's is a little more friendly. Let's dance. Okay? You and me together. Korea is famous. Every foreigner, when they come to Korea, one of the first phrases they learn is 같이 갑시다. Right? Let's go. Or let's go together. 같이 is together, but yeah, let's do something. Do you agree with me? So those are the 3 key phrases here. Now, would you mind is dangerous because it can be confused as a yes or no question. And it's kind of opposite. If I say, do you mind or would you mind? And I say, yes, that means I mind. I don't like it. I think it's a bad idea. Please don't do that. Would you mind? Yes, I mind. So to answer it's a good idea, we have to say no. Would you mind filling my cup with water, please? And you say, no, I don't mind. I'll do it right now. And they go and they get me a drink of water. All right. So, would you mind? If we look at the phrases underneath, she says, would you mind putting that in writing? And he'll say, no problem. Right? No, I don't mind. It's fine. Should I schedule a meeting? Yes, please do. Let's get some lunch. Yes, why don't we go now? Sure, sounds like a good idea. All right? Pretty simple, pretty easy. At the bottom of the page, we've got 4 phrases. We've got 4 introductions. We've got 4 key elements of the phrase, and we've got 4 responses. Let's just take a look. We're not going to do this together. We're working through this. A, should I? B, could you? C, would you? D, why don't we? So what's the difference between could you and would you? Could is related to can. Is it possible? Would you is related to will. Do you agree? All right. Maybe do you want to? But it's really more like do you agree? So should I schedule the presentation means kind of is it my job or do you want me to do it? Could you schedule the presentation? Are you too busy? Right? Is it possible? Would you schedule the presentation? I expect you're not too busy. Maybe I'm your boss. Maybe I'm your coworker, but I know you're not too busy right now. Right? Would you? And why don't we schedule the presentation? Let's do it together, right? Schedule the presentation, work out a schedule, write an email, put off the meeting. Put off? Delay. Delay the meeting. Something's wrong. And then the answer is, okay, that'd be great. That's a good idea. No problem. Of course. Yes, please. Easy, easy. So we're on page 39. We're going to play the dialogue, but first look at the phrases underneath. The first one starts off with, would you mind? And would you mind calling? And the next one is, could you call? So you can see this little grammar difference. We don't want to say, would you mind to call? And we don't want to say, would you mind call? So would you mind calling? All right. May I borrow is the second box. Could I use? Could I? Is it possible? You've probably heard an English teacher tell you, and I think I said a couple weeks ago, may and can. May is permission. Do I have permission to do it? May I, teacher, may I go to the restroom? The teacher says, please wait. Say, teacher, can I go to the restroom? The teacher might say, do you know how to find it? Can you go by yourself? Can, is it possible? Right? Of course, if your leg is not broken, you can go to the restroom. You're an adult. You really want to ask permission, you would say, teacher, can I go to the restroom? Would be very strange. Teacher, may I go to the restroom? And the teacher can say, yes, you may. But most people don't care. It's very formal, old-style rules, and nowadays most people are pretty lazy about that. Then the third one, let's postpone it, or why don't we postpone it? Why don't we put it off? Postpone means delay. Put it off, delay. Okay. Should I email everybody, or just, I'll email everybody. I decide. I'm going to do it. And then he can say, no, don't stop. So, yes, please. That would be great. Okay. So, this is another section where I'm not really planning to test you on any particular word or phrase, but I do want to hear you speaking politely, speaking kindly, talking nicely. So I'm going to play the recording. I think I've got the right recording here.
Here is the conversation with alternate words and phrases.
Whoops. Try this one.
Page 39. Conversation. Would you mind calling Alan? Exercise 3. Read and listen to the conversation.
Would you mind calling Alan when you get a chance? We ought to ask him about the production schedule.
No problem. I'll call him later this morning. May I borrow your copy of the schedule?
Sure. So what do you want to do about the production meeting tomorrow?
Oh, I forgot all about it. Let's postpone it for now.
I think that's the best thing to do. Should I email everyone?
Yes, please, and send a copy to Alan.
Okay.
Listen again.
Well, that was interesting. I just accidentally cut off my recording right at the end of the page 39. That's okay. We can just stick these two files together, so no problem. At the bottom, you can see the pronunciation focus. We're not really working on that in this chapter. Turn a page. Page 40. Are we ready for the trade fair? Okay, more and more we are hearing about our university students getting involved in trade fairs. A fair, a kind of a show where very often people are selling things, or at least showing things that they hope to sell, or at least show off what they've done. And a trade fair would be businesses that want to buy and sell. So we're going to listen on page 40, and you should check the items that they discuss. There are 4 items there. This is file number 51. Basic listening.
Page 40. Business connections. Listening. Are we ready for the trade fair? Exercise 1. Jerry Marks, Diane Atkinson, and Luis Borrego are executives. They are discussing preparations for a trade fair. Look at the items below. Then listen and check the 4 items they discuss.
Are we ready for the trade fair next month? Diane, did you find out about the booth?
Yes, Jerry. I booked a double booth. It's in a good location right by the entrance. I've got tables, of course, 2 video screens, and a computer terminal.
Good. We'll be taking orders, so we'll need the computer. What about telephone lines?
I'm not sure.
Could you find out about that? We need at least 2 telephone lines.
Okay, I'll check that this afternoon.
Luis, what do you want to do about staffing? We ought to have a minimum of 3 people at the booth at any one time.
Well, I've got a list of who's coming, but they can't all be there for the whole time. The sales reps want a schedule.
Okay. Well, just look at their availability and work it out.
Okay.
Now, do we want to do anything special to attract people to our booth?
The schedule is a bit tight. I could find out about getting music or food.
I'm not sure food is a good idea. Why don't I talk to Tom about a special event at the booth? He usually has good ideas.
That's interesting how that recording got cut so short. But anyway, what did you hear? Location? Equipment? Computer, telephone lines, etc. Hotel accommodation? No. Transportation? No. Staffing? Yes, the sales team was organizing that. Product demonstration? Well, no. Promotional brochures? No. Special events? Well, yeah, why don't we ask Tom? He usually has good ideas. All right, we're going to listen again. Fill out the sentences.
Listening. Are we ready for the
Number
trade
2, fill out the sentences.
fair? Exercise 1.
Use your own
Jerry
words,
Marks,
not
Diane
exactly what they
Atkinson,
say.
and Luis Borrego are executives. They are discussing preparations for a trade fair. Look at the items below. Then listen and check the 4 items they discuss.
Are we ready for the trade fair next month? Diane, did you find out about the booth?
Yes, Jerry. I booked a double booth. It's in a good location right by the entrance. I've got tables, of course, 2 video screens, and a computer terminal.
Good. We'll be taking orders, so we'll need the computer. What about telephone lines?
I'm not sure.
Could you find out about that? We need at least 2 telephone lines.
Okay, I'll check that this afternoon.
Luis, what do you want to do about staffing? We ought to have a minimum of 3 people at the booth at any one time.
Well, I've got a list of who's coming, but they can't all be there for the whole time. The sales reps want a schedule.
Okay. Well, just look at their availability and work it out.
Okay.
Now, do we want to do anything special to attract people to our booth?
The schedule is a bit tight. I could find out about getting music or food.
I'm not sure food is a good idea. Why don't I talk to Tom about a special event at the booth? He usually has good ideas.
All right, so there we go. So Diane is going to find out about phone lines. Luis is going to work out a schedule for staff, the sales staff. And Jerry is going to talk to Tom about some kind of special event. All right, easy enough. Page 41 is a conversation, exchange of information. We may do this on Thursday, but honestly, I have found students find this to be difficult. There's a lot of data, a lot of words in these notes. The assignment is kind of challenging, so we usually end up working on something a little bit less complicated, but still working on the same idea of asking people to do things, making proposals, making suggestions. Could you, should I, we should, or we ought to. Let's ask something. Why don't you? Why don't we? Would you mind Xing? should, ought to. This is a good example in English of the same situation you have in Korean, where more than one language has fed into the way we talk today. And some people prefer one word, some people prefer a different word, and some people think that each word has a little bit different feeling, but actually, technically, they mean the same thing. Should. You should do this. This sounds like my mother talking to me. Robert, you should clean your room. Ought to is not something that my family says, but ought to generally suggest that it is better and almost an obligation. Almost an obligation. Ought to sounds much stronger and very German, and should is kind of like, Oh, you don't see that very well. Let me try that again. Imagine somebody going, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. It's not good. Now somebody's saying, you ought to, or you ought not. Nah. It's bad. For me, that's the feeling of the difference. But some other people can feel differently. If you look them up in a dictionary, these two words are interchangeable. They don't have any difference. Turn to page 42. Information overload. This is one of my favorite readings in the book. Hint, hint, hint. And it's related to what we talked about in week 2 in our classes when I talked about cognitive overload. Overload means too much. If you put too much straw on the camel's back and the camel's back will break. Put too much weight on the donkey and the donkey will refuse to move. Put too much weight on the truck and the gear will break. Well, information overload simply means you have too much information coming and you can't handle it. You can't process it. It just piles up and becomes junk. Cognitive overload, your brain is working too hard. It can't handle it. So really, information overload is a kind of cognitive overload. But cognition relates to the brain working. Information overload just means too much information is coming and we can't use it. We can't handle it. Maybe we can't even put it in the file cabinet. The computer hard drive is too full. There's too much stuff. All right, so let's read it. Information overload. There's the fax, voicemail, and email. Then there's the telephone, the cell phone, the car phone, and the pager. Yes, in the old days, there was such a thing as a car phone. If you watched the old James Bond movie, you could see the old car phone. A recent study found that workers receive an astonishing number of messages from computerized devices. Employees who were surveyed received an average of 190 messages each day. Most of the messages require some form of response. Okay? This is not just spam you just delete. Most of these messages require you to reply or do something. Forward it to the other person who's better handling it. Forward it to the person who wants to know that. Even if they don't do anything, they want to know it. Reply back to the customer and say, I'm sorry, we can't help you, or please contact our service center in this other city. Most of these 190 messages require some kind of reply. Some kind of response. 40% of the workers said they are interrupted by incoming messages 6 or more times an hour. An hour per hour, same. That means I'm trying to do something else and ding, my phone rings. Trying to do something else and the instant messenger pops up and I look at it and it's something I have to do. Not just, oh, never mind. This is not talking about your friend contacting you on the phone or your friend contacting you by Kakao. This is business work. even 20 years ago. Economist Paula Raymond, director of the Radcliffe Public Policy Institute, said that people are frustrated because they are working longer hours to handle all the requests for information and communication. People are treated like they are machines that are on all the time, she said. Now think about in Korea where we've been hearing about workers who are expected to answer kakao at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. from their boss and says, I need you to take care of this before our 9 o'clock meeting tomorrow. When do I sleep? I'm not a machine. I'm not working 24 hours. Laws are starting to change. Laws are telling companies if you tell people to work at night, you have to pay them. All right? It's starting to change. Many experts believe that the growth of information technology is making people work more efficiently. That's the Bill Gates promise, that Microsoft Office would make a paperless office and that information would be shared more perfectly with the people who need it and not with people who don't. That was the Microsoft Office product promise. But you know what? Doesn't seem like it worked. But not everybody agrees that it has a positive effect on productivity. New technology eliminates some of the old boring tasks and gives many more people access to data. But workers need to learn to manage the flow of information. For example, they need to be strict. This is the rule. They need to be strict about deleting unnecessary telephone messages and moving unimportant email straight to the trash. Now, I don't know if I agree with that. Should it go to the trash or should it go to somebody who can handle it? Should it go into the maybe tomorrow box? The maybe tomorrow box says, well, I'm too busy today, something else is more important, but maybe tomorrow, if I'm not busy, I can do it. And something will sit in the maybe tomorrow box for a few days. And then maybe on Friday afternoon, those maybe tomorrows go in the trash. Maybe not straight to the trash. Employees also need strategies to deal with interruptions. Strategy is thinking about a big idea, okay, not just how to handle this little thing, but a bigger idea, a wide idea, how to handle problems or interruptions. As Raymond points out, if you are constantly bombarded with messages, bombs. If you're constantly bombarded with messages, you never get your real work done. Well, for some people, their real work, their job is to respond to messages. That's the telephone operator's job, or the person who is in the public information office. Maybe that's their job, is to respond to inquiries and public requests. But other people, it's not. As a professor, my job is to teach and to do research and to do service. And a lot of professors think that teaching comes number 3. Or maybe number 4. I don't know. But something like a telephone call from the university asking me to come on Saturday and help pick up trash because we're having an event. That's probably not really important to me. Maybe it's important to the university. Maybe it should be important to me, but it's not very high on my list of I should do this, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this. Well, coming on Saturday to pick up trash is not very important to me. But I do teach on Saturday, graduate class. So maybe if I'm coming to school anyway, if I come a few hours early and pick up trash for 3 hours to be part of our, Green Game Young program, well, maybe. But how about the email or the cacao from a student who says, Professor, do you have time? I want to have coffee and talk. Well, what do you want to talk about? Oh, I just want to practice my English. Well, you practicing your English is an important thing, but it's not very important in my schedule. So if I'm not busy, sure. Or if you have an important problem, yes. But if you just want to talk about the Samsung Lions, well, that's not very important in my schedule. So I may have to say no. And I might even wonder, why did he call me? Why did he call me? You know, some professors don't give students their cacao and don't give students their cell phone because they don't want students contacting them for silly things. Send me an email. If it sounds important, I'll call you back. Right? Or I'll email you back. I'm not picking on those professors. Each person has to decide how to build your schedule and have to decide how do you arrange things. And I got an email today from somebody who said, "Hello, Robert. How are you doing on that book? I'm supposed to be writing a book. I'm behind schedule. Maybe I should stop doing something else and just do the book." So this is the question. So number 2 underneath it says, answer the questions. What problem is described in the article? Don't say information overload. Explain it. On your final test, if I say, tell me about information overload, what are you going to say? Too much information is coming to too many people. It's interrupting their other work. What has caused the problem? Well, maybe connectivity. Phones and emails and faxes. All the ways you can contact people. In the old days, people wrote letters, and because letters took time, people didn't write unimportant letters. Not so much. Okay, according to the article, what should workers do to overcome the problem? Well, find strategies. What kind of strategies? I have a friend who never picks up his phone before 9 a.m. He works in the morning. He works very well. He never picks up the phone before 9 a.m. Don't care if the house is burning down. He doesn't pick up the phone before 9 a.m. That's just his way. And then underneath it, you see talk about it, discuss the problem, discuss the questions. What kind of communication do you use the most? Are you a cacao person? Are you a Facebook person? Telephone, emails, letters, memos, whatever. Why do you use that? Why do you prefer that? What do you do to avoid interruptions at work? When I was younger, I tended to work late because after 6 o'clock, the phone hardly rang. It was difficult to contact me. Right? The phone didn't go through. Somebody had to pick up a phone and then walk to my office and say, are you able to take a phone call? And people knew after 6 o'clock business is closed, so got very few phone calls in. No cell phone in those days. So I worked late. My friend gets up early and just doesn't answer the phone. I have friends who refuse to use Facebook and they refuse to use Kakao because it's just noise. It's just noise. So they don't do it. All right. What kind of correspondence should not be sent by email? Why do you think so? Blah, blah, blah. All right. On page 43 at the bottom in the green box, there's a couple of useful phrases. Please remember to. Again, I say again. In English, we say please a lot. We say thank you a lot. If possible, could you? Could you please? That's really kind. If possible, could you please? And the third one sounds a little bit, sounds a little bit like, I don't know, a teacher or somebody who is not really your boss, but kind of supposed to help you remember to follow the rules. May I remind you not to get closer than 2 meters, right? May I remind you to follow the social distancing policies. Last week, 2 weeks ago, it might have been, may I remind you to wear a mask. But other people are like, where's your mask? Right? They're much less kind. They're much more direct. That's Unit 7. I said we're going to fly through it. Unit 8 is another one that I don't usually spend a lot of time on. Unit 8 talks about change, managing change. And I would suggest that in the last 50 years, things have gotten much, much faster. Change has gotten much, much faster. And even 10 years to 10 years to 10 years. Every 10 years or so, change is happening faster. Newer technologies are allowing newer things to happen. That's the kind of change we're talking about. So, Chapter 8, Managing Change Objectives, to describe changes at a company, to describe a company's past and present performance. Performance, remember? Going up, going down. And to write a report describing recent achievements. Recent achievements. Now, this is important. This is kind of like on our midterm test, what have you done since blah, blah, blah. All right? Because people judge you not on what you did 30 years ago, but what you did last year. If I want you to be a good worker, if I want to hire you for my company, I want to know how well you're doing things, especially recently. So I'm not going to work on page 1. Sales have fallen sharply, or the company has appointed. It's simple PP. But let's take a look at page 45. The guy starts with, I hear your company has reorganized recently. I hear. There's a rumor. Maybe it's not true. Okay. I hear your company has reorganized, moved things around, got a new CEO, changed this department to that department. Or your company has made some changes. She says, we certainly have. We've restructured the company into 3 divisions. Maybe before there were 7 divisions. Division like a boo. Maybe it's a production division, sales division, and research division. Just 3. And there used to be so many more. Maybe there used to be a marketing division and a administration division and whatever. That's quite a change. Yes, and we've changed our distribution channels. We're only using 12 distributors now. We used to have 50, one for every city. Really? And instead of doing our own hiring, we're using professional recruiters. Professional recruiters, okay? Doesn't mean the new worker will work for a different company. It means we're hiring somebody to help us choose the right employees. We're not hiring by ourselves. Maybe we've cut our HR team. That way we can concentrate on expanding our services. We're cutting out a lot of our administration section and using other companies to do it. We hired an outside accountant to handle our bookkeeping instead of us doing it. We've handled a market research company instead of us having our own marketing team. Sounds like you're on the right track. Okay, so it's just broad, not too much important for us. I kind of like the first phrase. I hear that, or I hear your. Okay, I hear something, or I hear that something. Kind of, it might not be true. All right, that's all there is on that. Page 46 is just a listening activity. Okay, we're going to play it if I can find it. I think it's number 40, 50. Where is my recording? Maybe it's gone. I don't usually use the recordings at the end of this.
This is the end of CD 1.
I don't have
The
it.
program continues.
Too bad. Okay, so we're not going to do that tonight. That's fine, no problem. Let's see, 35 and 25 is 60, right? So we have enough time for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and stop. I'm going to have to figure out if I have the other recording if I want to. But the thing we need to talk about on Thursday is whether we want to continue in the book, and we will talk about it, or whether we want to do some outside materials. Outside materials would be things more closely related to public administration, for example, public personnel administration. I don't usually do much in the book at this point, except the readings at the end, for example, page 54. Page 48 was actually the end of this chapter, and sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't. I think I might do it this time. So why don't you take a look at page 48. It's called Strategic Outsourcing. The reason why we'll probably talk about it, I stopped talking about it, but we'll bring it back, is because In Korea nowadays, outsourcing has become a big deal. In the last 3 or 4 years, it's become common and controversial. So that's what we'll talk about on Thursday at 10:30 a.m. We're going to talk about outside materials. We're going to talk about readings in the book. I'll see you then. Thank you very much.